Hello, welcome, good evening. Thank you for joining another MRA community broadcast, and I will be your host again tonight. My name is Serge, and tonight I will be introducing to you the MyRoute-app Gold features in our route planner software. So without further ado, I would like to invite you to join me to look at our website, www.myroute-app.com. And before I dive into the gold features, for everybody that hasn't seen MyRoute-app yet, or for whom this is the first time they ever see a webinar here live on YouTube, let me quickly go over the website as you see it. And I accidentally misclicked. Let me get my screen back up for you. That's what happens when you type with thick fingers. Then you sometimes click the wrong button. So we're back here at the page that I started. This is the home page for MyRoute-app if you haven't logged in or registered yet. This is the same for everyone, and whether you have already a subscription to MyRoute-app or not, you can find routes here, you can create your own routes, and of course there's more info if you need that. What is finding routes? What does that mean? We have the MyRoute-app Route Expert library that allows you to browse curated routes all over the world, curated by our route experts, in this case, for example, Christian Lies, who rates this big loop near Biscadi, I probably pronounced it wrong, with a 5-star, and this route you can click on, you can find the details for, and you can download it as a GPX and put it in your navigation or in an app that you like, all for free, all without even registering. Also, to create a quick route, be it from A to B or a round tour, you can do that easily and for free on MyRoute-app homepage. For those of you that already know MyRoute-app, you know that you can also register for free and start a basic subscription, upgrade to silver if you want to, and as I will be explaining today, also upgrade to gold. So for me, I will log in. I have my credentials already filled out, and then I log in and I end up in the Route Lab. I actually wanted to show you a little bit more about the products that MyRoute-app offers. So let me go back one screen and show you what, if you're not logged in yet, how that looks. So I'll log out, and where you can find the differences between the different subscriptions. So under more info, you find all the information. This was the last button that I meant to show you. You find all the information about the products of MyRoute-app and the features we offer. So first up on the top left, you find MyRoute-app Route Planner. This is the route planner that I'm showing you tonight. This is the route planner that uses your browser on your PC, on your Mac, or on your tablet, phone, or other apparatus that can do Chrome or a web browser. And you can use it for free. I'll show you what functionalities are in there. Or you can use it as a gold member or a silver member, and gold member is only a 39 euros per year fee, or you can choose to become a lifetime member for the moments that lifetime subscriptions become available. Keep yourself posted on the newsletter to find out when that is. Next to that, we have MyRoute-app Navigation, which is our own navigation app you can use on your iPhone or on your Android phone, and you can use it to write the routes that you created while planning on MyRoute-app Route Planner. So it's two different things. The third thing is our mobile app, the free MyRoute-app mobile app. It's the new form, the new shape on which also MyRoute-app Next will be built on. Keep yourself posted via Facebook and the newsletters to find more about that. It's an in-house built app that you can now already use to find routes, to track routes, and even to follow a line on your screen while riding. Works perfectly for hiking and biking as well. So that's the other free app for MyRoute-app navigation, I'll explain in one of the upcoming webinars. Next to the software, we also have some hardware, some merchandise and some clothing. Have a look there if you're interested. You can read the MRA blog, and of course you can join the MyRoute-app community forum, which is a marketplace for knowledgeable users and newbies to come together and share information, ask questions, get answers, maybe get some inspiration for upcoming trips and everything else that you would discuss in a forum. And if you are a well-versed route planner, you might want to consider becoming a MyRoute-app route expert and also publish the routes that you find the greatest in your area for the MyRoute-app community. So back to MyRoute-app Route Planner. As I said, there's a basic, there's a silver, and there's a gold subscription. And how do I know what the differences are? Well, if I click Discover, I find the limited information that will trigger you to see the differences. One of the most important features, the USPs, are there's 3 maps in the Routeplanner Gold: the Tomtom Map, the Google, and the Here map. And I'll explain in an example in a minute what the differences are and why you would choose the one over the other, or use them side by side, and how to do that. And before you decide, you can click the Buy Now button and you will see a brief overview of the features that are in those 3 levels of the subscription. The basic subscription allows you to find and create routes. It uploads routes, it downloads routes, you can share them, you can track them via MRA Mobile. There's a Michelin map layer, I'll explain in a sec what that is, and you can store up to 25 routes online, all for free. Great offer there. If you need more routes and you want also some street view and the option to use winding routes and route segments, then you might want to upgrade to silver. And if you want all that and more, you upgrade to gold. And I'll show you an overview of all the features side by side, and you make up your mind what is best for you. Now I see that this for some reason didn't automatically translate on my screen, and I can't troubleshoot that now, so I'll read it out for you. The first part of the feature list shows finding routes, finding route collections, saving routes and routes in the area. They're all available in both silver and gold. In basic, you can't use the features like finding routes in the area of the route planner, but those are available in both silver and gold. The Scenic Route Maker is scenic round trips, scenic A to B routes, and storing routes and having your individual settings. That's available for everyone. So in basis, MyRoute-app is already a very complete set of tools for every user, regardless their subscription. What makes it different is the maps that you can use while route planning. I highlight the Tomtom and the Garmin Here map, and it says with route calculation. And what does that mean? I'll show you on screen in a second, but it means that the algorithm that Tomtom uses on their devices, so that you use on your Tomtom 550, 410, whatever, that same algorithm is available in the map that you can use to plan on MyRoute-app, which means that you have the curvy routes, that you have the hilliness that you can set. The Garmin Here map, on the other hand, doesn't have those features, but it offers features like avoid seasonal closures. For example, when in wintertime, mountain passes are closed and you cannot plan a route over that mountain pass. In MyRoute-app navigation, you have both maps at your disposal. You can switch between them. You can choose whatever works best for you. And I'll show you in a minute why it is important to use both maps, regardless of your sat-nav that you use, or that you use MyRoute-app navigation to make your routes. Then there is a few layers, map layers. So the difference is maps have a calculation algorithm attached to it, so the way the route is planned from A to B, from B to C. But there's also map layers. So a overview, literally an overlay on the map that shows additional information. For example, the Google overlay will display things like restaurants and parking spaces and shop names and monuments, whatever you think is important for your trip, you will find on the Google overlay. Also, the Tomtom overlay on a map that you're planning on Garmin is possible, and the other way around as well. And what also is a very nice feature is the Open Topo Map. This is a map that you can use to map out your hikes or your bike trips. It includes elevation lines, so it will be possible for you to set up a route for hiking that meets your requirements for how hilly the route would be, how steep the walk would be, or how flat it would be, depending on your walking skills. And of course, Google Street View, also available in the Silver subscription, is a very handy feature to make decisions in planning, to choose between one road or the other when planning your routes. What I'm also going to show you is the 3D map. The 3D map will give you a bird's eye view of your route in the environment. So if you're in the Alps region, you can see the climbs, you can see that the route is either in the valley or on the top of the hill. Really nice feature that also brings some joy in planning. The rest, I'll scroll down real quick and I'll show you on the actual map. Are toolbox features like putting extra route points on a route or decreasing the number of route points in a route that you maybe got from another source. Reversing the route, so counterclockwise versus clockwise, or A to B, B to A, without having to manually switch every individual route point. Splitting the route and a route calculator. And of course, this is a unique feature that only is available on MyRoute-app, is the comparison of your route on the MyRoute-app route planner between Garmin HereMap and Tomtom Map, to make sure that if you share your route with other users, you have the same outcome, you have the same track that you ride. So enough information here. You can find that under the shop. Whether you're logged in or not, you can find the information there. So I hope today to show you that it is a lot of nice features in Gold that help you decide to become a Gold member of MyRoute-app. Okay, so I'm in my own logged in environment and I can choose to create a new route, or I can get one that I already have in my library. I do the latter. I have a route from Colchester to Hinckley, and I just used this in a previous webinar as well. And what I always do is first create a copy of a route if I'm starting to work on it. So in this case, I'll use the Hinckley 2. And if I lean out of sight, I always do it the wrong way. You see here on the line of the route, in this case it's route number 2 in the blue line, you see these two pages, and that makes a copy, and it allows me to rename the copy. I'll leave it for copy for now so I can find it later, and I can put it in a folder if I choose to. I'll leave it in my route folder and click save. So now I have a copy of the route from Colchester to Hinckley, and I open that route. I also have the original still left, so if I completely botch it up, then I would be able to recover from that. So as you can see, the route is from north to south in this case, because I already changed directions for it in the last video. So we're going from Hinckley to Colchester, so the name should actually be the other way around. And because we like to do the things properly, Hinckley to Colchester, confirm. So we start here at the P near our hotel, and then the route goes that way all the way to Colchester. So as you can see, I'm now using the Tomtom Map. You can see by the color that this is the Tomtom Map, but you can also see that on the top right here where I have selected the Tomtom Map. I can show you what features are allocated to the Tomtom map. These are not features that MyRoute-app necessarily comes up with. These are features that are included in the Tomtom map calculating algorithm. So this is what we can use. The routing options include to avoid toll roads, to avoid highways, ferries, etc., etc. It also includes hilliness and curves, low, average, or high. Curves, so how windy do you need your road to be, your route to be. Low, average, and high, you recognize this from the settings in your Tomtom sat-nav, and whether or not you want to avoid off-road or use off-road settings. You also see some route utilities, and those are the same over all maps. As long as you have your gold subscription, these features will be available for you. Same as the editor settings, those are also not depending on the map you use. So remember these toolkit functionalities. If I now go switch to the Here map, which I do in the next pull down menu, you'll see the obvious change in color. The Garmin map, the Here map, uses a different color scheme than the Tomtom map uses. And under toolkit, you see that I can again avoid a few the same and some other type of road, toll roads, highways, boat ferries, rail ferries. In Tomtom I didn't have the differentiation between rail ferries and boat ferries, even tunnels and unpaved roads if I need to. But what I also have in the Here map is the disable seasonal closures. And this is especially helpful if I'm planning a trip to the Alps, and I'm doing that in January because I'm not riding my bike in January, so I have a lot of time in the dark evening hours to plan routes. And then I find that I can't plan a route over the Stelvio because the Stelvio is still closed due to snow. By disabling seasonal closures, the map algorithm, the calculating algorithm, will not take into consideration that that road is now closed for winter, and it will allow you to plan your route just before you leave. Let's say in May or in June, you can enable the road closures again, and you should see that the route stays the same, and you can use that route to start riding. So that's the toolkit differences. Now, another thing that we use quite often is the comparison between the two maps. And you can do that by using compare route with. So I'm in the Garmin Here map now, and I can therefore compare it to the Openstreetmap and to the Tomtom Gold map. And I already fixed a few differences in the previous webinar, but you can see if I zoom in here that the black line is what now is the Here map, sorry. So the black line represents the route as provided by the Garmin Here map. The red line is the route as presented by the Tomtom map. So as you can see, there's a little bit of difference, and you see there's some few silly spikes in here. So for some reason, one calculating algorithm chooses another road than the other. Let's find out, and I'll show you how you easily do that. So I've switched on the toolkit compare route with, and that's the start of it. So now I zoom in and I see that there's two roads. This is a little bit bigger road because this is a yellow, and this one over here is a white road on the map. So this is typically a smaller road than the one in red. So that would explain why the Tomtom map would suggest to take this road. But is that the better choice or not? So I go on my map screen to the left, and the third button from the bottom is Street View. I select Street View, and you see that there's blue lines appearing on the screen. So now I can put my marker here on the red line and look at this road. How do I like this road? I just typically go over the road for a couple of kilometers by just jumping with my mouse, and I go like, okay, I like this road. And then I find the alternative that the other route planner selected. Is this a better choice or is this not a better choice? As you can see, this is not a two-way but a one-way street. A one-track street, and the road surface appears to be at least of a lesser quality than the one that we just saw. So I'll jump ahead and see if we got rid of the white van. We did. It also looks like a bit of fun. So depending whether I'm on an adventure bike and don't mind the occasional gravel on the road, or if I'm on my new shiny Goldwing and I hate when gravel jumps up and makes scratches on the bottom of my panniers, I can choose either the one or the other road, and it's up to you. And with the comparison tool switched on, I can now easily make the route the same for both devices. So I can either say I add a route point here, and I do that after a decision point, so after an intersection, after a roundabout, after a split. And by just adding one simple route point, this red line that was here before is now following the same line as the black line. So by adding a waypoint, I can fix that. You see the same thing happen here, and you can see that even here, although there's a route point here, the calculating algorithm still says it's probably better to go back and take this road. Again, I switch to Street View and I decide whether I like this or that road better. Depending on the travel of the day, am I in transit or am I doing a leisurely tour? You may decide for one or the other. Are you riding alone? Are you riding in a group? Is the speed on this road 30 kilometers an hour and this road 60 kilometers an hour? It also impacts your overall riding time. So you can check that here, 5 hours and 27 minutes. Instead of adding a route point here to make the red line jump to the black line, I can also create an extra route point by hovering over the black line, then dragging that point over to the red line and dropping it here. And it's actually a little bit faster even. So because it's shorter, it makes it a little bit faster. And again, by adding one waypoint, sometimes you have to add 3 or 4, depending on the distance that you have to cover, you can make the routes the same for both maps. So that is the benefit of using the compare route with functionality under the toolkit. The 3D functionality I'll show you in another route that is in the Alps, for example, so you can definitely see how that is. Here in this part of the UK, it's quite flat, so the result is underwhelming if I show you the 3D map. What we now see is that we have a stop here, and this probably was included in the route beforehand, and now I want to make sure that we don't need this and I can remove it. So how do I go about that? Well, let's say I'm looking for a lunch location. I already explained that there's a difference between the two maps. Tomtom has a calculating algorithm and here has an algorithm. They both have different toolkit functionality, but they also can both use overlays. And overlays, and if you click on the map, you accidentally create an extra route point. So you go to the, oh, it's over here, the oh shit button. You press the oh shit button and the route point is gone again. I can use overlays, and one overlay I like to use is the Google Maps hybrid overlay. So I'm still in the here map, so the route is being calculated using the here functionality and an algorithm, but I can now see that there is a lot of information in the Google Map that may help me decide whether or not I want to go for lunch here. I see the Mandarin Chinese restaurant, but I also see that there's a bike place here, and I see other information that can help me decide where I want to stop and park. Here is Millhouse Bed and Breakfast. Maybe that's a good place to stop for the night, so I can maybe put my waypoint over there, my route point over there. There's a big parking area across the street. Use these overlays to find information and make better decisions in route planning. In this case, I'm going to leave this route point alone. This is still there from the previous route that I used to reverse. So I'm going to delete this route point. You can easily do that, right? And now we get a much more logical route. Here is already some information. I'm changing to the hybrid again, and I can indeed see that this is the castle. It's over here, so the route point is on the point of interest is on the castle. This is the parking area for the castle, and if I want to visit the castle, I probably want to put my waypoint over here and mark this as a possible stop, and put some information in here and say visit castle, for example. Yeah, so the route information, the information in your route becomes much more detailed if you use overlays. What type of overlays do we use? Well, we use the Michelin overlay to find the scenic routes, and given it's a little bit less in, for example, the UK, I know that there's one here, for example, they're marked with the green shading, but in Germany or in the Alps there's many more. So use the Michelin overlay. The Openstreetmap map if you want to create a bike, so push bike route. It even shows intersection numbers, which many bikers like a lot. And as I already said, the Open Topo Map will provide you with a detailed topographic map of the area, and because it contains a lot of information, it takes a little bit of time before it completely renders, especially if you're on a slow Wi-Fi as I am here in the studio. But as you see, the map when it opens contains much more information, including elevation lines and the such that you need to make a good hike route for. Back to the default map in here. Imagine that I have now created the route and made it completely similar for both Tomtom and here. I now want to be able to cut it in half, for example, from start to lunch and from lunch to finish, or maybe if it's a long trip, I want to stay overnight somewhere, I want to cut it in half. There's a few options to do that. I can just browse through this list and find the middle in time or in distance of my route. Or I can say after 2 hours I really need something to eat, so I will find something near route point 17 to have lunch at, which totally makes sense. And lo and behold, there is a restaurant located here. It's actually the Fordham Arms, and again, if you switch to Google Maps, you can actually see that it is the Fordham Arms restaurant, and that there's a big parking space, so even with a group you can easily stop there. If I want to change, cut the route in half, I have a functionality in my toolbox that says split. And split just cuts the route in half. So if I decided that we want to stop at route point 17, I go here and I select route point 17, you can see it jump, and that means that I now created the split there. If I scroll down, it says the amount of new routes is 2, and I click next. I can name them Hinckley to lunch, and lunch to Colchester, and then I split them, and now there's 2 routes in my overview. Oh, sorry. Now there's 2 routes in my overview. Hinckley to lunch and lunch to Colchester. Easy enough. And if I then export these 2 parts as GPX and share them with friends, they can use the track in the Tomtom and the Garmin, and both will be riding the same. Okay, I went back to the original route with all the route points in it, because there's a few more features that I want to show. Again, under Toolbox, toolkit, they have the same functionality on both maps, and I can choose expand, and expand is not making the route longer but adding more waypoints. As you can see, there's 40 waypoints now, or route points, however you want to call them, and if I make that 50 and then press confirm, you now see that there's a few route points added, and the restaurant that used to be route point 17 is now route point 18, and everywhere in between we added new route points, waypoints, whatever you want to call them. I can also reduce or limit the number of route points because I find this a little bit overwhelming. Maybe I can do this with 30. I go reduce and choose 30. I would not advise to simply remove route points in a route, because if you change a route point that was trivial to begin with, which made the difference between that road and that road, the reason why we just made them, we compared them and made them equal, you may want to double check if then your route is still on the desired road. But sometimes people create routes with 200 route points and you go like, yeah, let's start with the half of that and then fix whatever is left. So that's why you want to use reduce. So I used split, I used expand and reduce, and the one that I'm going to show you now is reverse. And reverse actually changes the direction of the entire route. And you need to consider a few things then if you do that, and that is, for example, if there's dual carriageways in your route, or roads with a mid divider, and your route point needs to be on one or the other side of that mid barrier. Obviously, if you change your route direction, you need to check if there's any route points on the wrong side of the road, or you will find yourself doing loops around those barriers. So if I reverse this route, make sure you do a copy first. You automatically see that 1 is now here and 30 is now here. So we're no longer going from Hinckley to Colchester, but we're going from Colchester to Hinckley in one simple step. As I said earlier, you have to make sure that your route points are always placed after a decision moment. So a decision moment is, for example, a T-junction or an intersection. This route point is now, because we changed direction, first we were coming from here and we went there, so it was after a decision moment. Now we're going from south to north, so now it's before an intersection. Drag this route point, zoom in, put it on the road as close to the middle of the line as you can, and do that for all the route points. This one, because we now go the other direction, becomes a silly route point. So you want to double check and see if it is necessary to keep this route point. Was this important because it was a fuel stop or something? Or can I possibly drag it and put it here and make it a logical route again? So by reversing your route, you have to individually check all the route points to make sure that they're still in the ideal situation, location situated. Then route calculator. Of course, you can manually read and then make your own calculations in your head, but maybe you want to know from route point 17 to route point 23, the Pittsford water reservoir, how much time that would take. You go to the calculator, you select the route point where you had lunch, and you select the route point of the water feature thingy that you wanted to see, the Pittsford water reservoir. You perform the calculation and you see it's 40 kilometers and almost 50 minutes in time. This again is a tool that you can use to create routes that are interesting to everybody, that have enough stopping points and also not too many stop points in a 5-minute stretch, because people want to ride and then get off the bike and take a picture, but not twice every 5 minutes. A calculator helps you better understand the time it takes between route points and therefore help you plan better routes. Then I have covered all the gold features one by one. So we have the difference between the two maps, the Here map and the Tomtom map. And I keep skipping over the default Openstreetmap, but have a look at the Openstreetmap, especially if you are planning in less crowded areas, or you want to plan, for example, an off-road trip. The Openstreetmap has a lot of small country lanes on it as well, like here, the dotted lines. And if you are a enduro rider and you use an app that also allows for off-road riding, or you use your Garmin for off-road riding, the Openstreetmap typically shows small and narrow green lanes that you may not find on the Tomtom map. So don't dismiss it immediately. There's a good use for all of them. Then we have the overlays, and again, I'm on Openstreetmap now, but I can easily use the Google overlay here as well to help me see in more detail what the map maybe doesn't show me. So I promised that we would jump to the Alps for a 3D view of things. So let's do that now. I go to the Alps and I just choose one, a grand tour in Switzerland, which is indeed a grand tour if I look at the number of waypoints here. In the bottom of the screen, you may have also noticed that there is a bar that will allow you to move over your route. And so it shows you the route in detail. It zooms in and then shows you the route, and you can manually slide this slider to see your route when you prepare it, and make sure that there's no silly loops in it that you don't need or whatever, instead of having to manually drag your map across your screen. Obviously, there's a functionality called Animate that also allows you to do that fully automatic. You can set the speed, you can even add photos and other information, and then start the preview, and the route will then automatically play. But that's for another webinar that I will show you that, but you know what the bar is meant for. So if I take this this grand tour of Switzerland, and let me find a area where it seems that we are in a mountainous region, that's here for example. I now switch to the 3D map. It's here on the main map just above Street View. The map will then render in 3D. There we go. This is the route, and I can zoom in by scrolling. So for example here, I can use the two buttons on the left to zoom in and zoom out. I can also use my scroll wheel. I can set the compass back to north, or I can use my manual orientation by using the curved arrow. I can then, I can then manually change the direction of the map, and I can see that I'm indeed driving in the valley here, and by then using the crosshair I can drag myself over the map and see, for example, over here that we're climbing and that we end up on the plateau here. Here is probably a few corners that I can zoom in on, and by switching between the two tools you can change the direction of the map. You can tilt it upright, or you can make it flat. And this is part of your pre-ride fun, right? So if you are planning a nice trip in Switzerland or in Austria, this gives you a good idea. If you zoom in, it becomes even more detailed of what you can expect. And this is a really cool feature in itself. So it's on the map. You can go back to 2D view if you want. After you plan your route, you can use the 3D functionality to assess your route in that sense. Is there a limit, for example, in the number of waypoints that you can use to switch routes? No, but you do want to make sure that you make a copy of your original route before you change anything, so you can always go back if you mess up. So I will go back to my list and I will click the Großglockner. Very famous mountain pass, of course, in Austria, and that too allows for a 3D view. And let's go all the way over here. Zoom in a little bit and then tilt the map. And you can see the Hochalpenstraße towards Großglockner. And you have that on your screen before you even leave the house. So these were the gold features that I wanted to show you tonight. Again, there's an overview with all these features available for you on the website if you want to compare. Basic silver, gold, and of course there's functionality for MyRoute-app navigation, and also keep an eye out for all updates on MyRoute-app navigation next. That will be a spectacular upgrade on that part, seamlessly working together with the MyRoute-app route planner in the fashion that our mobile app is now been released a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago even, in the same strategy. We're working on MyRoute-app Next navigation, and you want to look out for that. I'll be hosting a presentation on that either next week or the week after. Make sure you follow on Facebook to find all that information, or assign yourself to the newsletter and be informed that way. That was all for me today. I hope I showed you enough information to make you want to become a route planner gold for MyRoute-app, and that you enjoy planning your routes. The season is long from over. There's plenty of nice weather coming still, so enough time, maybe a weekend trip to Schwarzwald, or maybe go to Devon and visit Exmoor and Dartmoor. I've done it 2 weeks ago. Excellent riding there, especially if you have a friend that is local and knows all the Nick roads. We were in the Nick of the woods and drinking some Jetboil coffee, which was excellent. I wish for you that you can do the same. Find those routes on the Route Expert library. If you need some inspiration, create your own routes. You now know how to split them, how to reverse them, and how to use the calculating algorithms in both the maps. Have fun doing that, and if you go out, ride safe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.